done it with so many different people, a different offensive line unit, different wide receivers, different defenses, and he's done it against different teams as well. LeBron, in basketball, think about this. LeBron can be dominant and win a bunch of games. He did it in Cleveland at the beginning of his career, made playoffs, made finals without any help because he was that good. Tom Brady, you're seeing it this year, he has to be good, but everyone else around him has to be good as well. That's why I would lean towards Tom Brady. But I mean, you can't have a wrong answer here.
Listen, for the exact reason you made, however, is the reason why I think it's so clearly LeBron, because you're absolutely right. Brady can win a Super Bowl like he did last year, where he wasn't very good in that football game where they scored 13 points. If LeBron isn't good, his team loses. Those are the rules of engagement, and they have been the entirety of his career. No matter how good his teammates have been, he's never had a championship where you're like, oh, his teammates carried him to that. Go ahead,
No,
Brian.
well, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh carried LeBron a few times.
Well, they were, but he was the best. Every championship they won, he was the best player.
No doubt about it.
So, you know, he certainly has had help. I'm not arguing that when he's won titles, he hasn't had help. But there's never been a moment where you said, wow, the Cavs or the Heat or whomever won the title, won that series despite LeBron James. But the numbers also, the Associated Press, who has gotten the athlete of the year wrong a number of times, they maybe should scrub their history of it. Jackie Robinson did not win it the year he broke the color barrier. College football player did. They've had a lot of odd snubs. This one they got right. The titles they're even on this decade, 3 apiece. Finals appearances or Super Bowl appearances, it's 8-5. League MVPs this decade, it's 3-2. Finals MVPs, it's 3-2. And the other element of this that I think factors into it at least a bit is the impact LeBron, and some people would say for bad, I would argue for good. The impact LeBron has had on the sport as far as, and maybe all sports, player empowerment and player freedom of movement, that started this decade. That started with the decision which changed the way we look at what athletes are allowed to do. What athletes are allowed, the superstar athletes leaving where they were drafted to, aside from Kareem, or I guess Lou Alcindor at the time, leaving the Bucks to go to the Lakers, and Barkley leaving Philly to go to the Suns later in his career, it's just something that was not even considered a possibility. And now you see it even in football. You see guys saying, I do not like it here. I want to go somewhere else. And the power dynamic shifting from the organization and the front offices to the players. And that is a direct impact of what a lot of people consider to be LeBron's biggest mistake of the decade, which is the decision almost a decade ago.
LeBron is so special. So, I mean, again, it's hard to go against him. I kind of still factor in where Tom Brady was drafted at. But I know it had nothing to do with this decade. Sure. But when LeBron was coming out of high school, he probably was the best athlete in the NBA already at that point. Coming from the 6th round to be this multiple-time champion, Tom Brady, that still means something to me, even though it wasn't in this decade.
And let me make one quick case for Brady, even though I think they got this right. If Brady's career started this decade, he is a first-ballot Hall of Famer and one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks ever. If the first decade of his career was his entire career, he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer and one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks ever. First decade of his career, you're at three championships, a 4th appearance, a league MVP, an undefeated season. Second decade of his career, this decade, 3 championships, 5 appearances, 2 league MVPs, and a continual reinvention where we didn't see a single downtick really until the end of last year and obviously this season. He and Jerry Rice are the only 2 NFL players that I feel like you can confidently say had 2 separate Hall of Fame careers. Bisect their careers in the middle, they are both not only Hall of Famers, they're both all-time Hall of Famers of what they did. That is a testament in a brutal sport to what Brady's accomplished. But he's not, I mean, he wasn't the decade over LeBron. I mean, who are we kidding here? Come on.
Coming up, you trust Jerry Jones to make the right call on the Cowboys' next head coach? That's ahead on First.
The Brandon Brooks injury is the most substantial injury they have suffered this season aside from Deshaun Jackson. And Deshaun Jackson, I think, if they win this game, could be back for the divisional round. I would be shocked if he's back for this round. Brandon Brooks is one of the best players on their team, one of the most unheralded players on their team. And with Lane Johnson, I do think he's going to play, probably not at 100%. So you're going to have a less than 100% Lane Johnson, a replacement guard, and how upright is Carson Wentz going to be able to remain? here's the silver lining for Philly. Even if they had more injuries, and even if Seattle was fully healthy, which they obviously aren't, you don't sign Marshawn Lynch out of retirement if you're fully healthy at the running back core. This is going to be a close game because Seattle doesn't know how to play any game other than close games. Every single one of their wins this year, except for the win against Arizona, came in a game decided by a touchdown or less. All they play is close games where either team can win it at the end. Situational quarterback play by Russell Wilson, up to and including last week, where he damn near brought him back from 12 down in the last half of the fourth quarter to steal the division from San Francisco, that they have won the vast majority of those one-score games. So I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a good game, and it wouldn't be shocking if Philly won. I'm not writing them off like I did so foolishly in 2017, but I don't think they can overcome the injuries and the talent deficit and experience deficit that they have at the quarterback position from Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll coming in against Carson Wentz.
I think, honestly, the experience part probably is the biggest factor. But this is how Philly has been winning games recently. They run the ball really well with Miles Sanders, catching the ball out of the backfield with him. And Carson Wentz has been playing out of his mind these last few games. However, when they lost Brandon Brooks early on in the season, that run game slowed down tremendously because he's just that type of guy. He's a role grader in the middle of that offensive line. And then you put him out on the screens, and he's able to lead the way for Miles Sanders and Boston Scott. And so without him in the middle, it's going to be tough. Hopefully Lane Johnson comes back to try to solidify that right side of the line. But when you're playing against a team that has that experience, has a quarterback that has been there and done that, it's going to be tough, especially for Carson Wentz, who's getting his first playoff experience of his short career.
You also like Seattle in this one?
Unfortunately, I do.
Unfortunately?
Unfortunately.
Well, yeah, he's a Philly guy.
I want the Eagles to continue to play.
I want the Eagles to win, so I think the Eagles will win. So I'm very confident
The other thing the Eagles have had is that they had a mojo going these last few games. And when you get that momentum going,
they have a lot of momentum.
At this point in the season, it usually continues to roll. Seattle's coming off a loss, so they're going to be hungry, but they're coming into Philadelphia. That's a big advantage.
Just quickly before we move on, 2 points. One is they did play earlier this year. Seattle, other than the Arizona game, that was the game Seattle dominated the most of any game on their schedule. You look at the final score, you see it was 17-10, or 17-9, I think, actually, but not really. It was 17-3, and then Philly scored a touchdown with 20 seconds remaining to make the score look closer than it was. But a question for you, how big of an impact does Seattle having to go all the way to Philadelphia make in your estimation on this football game? Though going cross-country travel, we see it happen during the regular season, and it seems to have a big impact. Do you think it has the same impact in a playoff game where teams are as amped up as they are?
Yeah, I think it has a small impact, but Seattle has been a really good road team, and they've been traveling all year long, and so I don't know that it has an impact on that football team. But normally, absolutely it would, because you're going either to the West Coast or to the East Coast, and you're off your time zone. But the way that Seattle has played on the road this year, I don't think it impacts them at all.
All right, let's move on now. The Associated Press came out with their
At the end of the day, we're in a blessed situation. We're in the playoffs. We're one of 12 teams in the playoffs. I mean, we have a chance to go on a revenge tour, and what better way to start off with Tennessee, who we lost to last year. It's a big motivation. We weren't happy about our performance, and they're coming into our house, and what better way to get it started for the playoffs Saturday at 8:15 in Gillette. I mean, I know it's going to be rocking, and I'm excited for our players to perform and, in a way, and play Patriot football on Saturday. I'm excited.
Well said by him. Nick, are you buying a revenge tour for the Patriots?
Well, I understand his point. It is certainly an opportunity. They didn't play Tennessee this year, but Brian, they played them last year in
Week 10.
Week 10, and Tennessee put it on them.
Yeah,
Didn't just beat them. They
blew them out.
Blew them out. And then they would then play Kansas City next. Kansas City went to Gillette this year and beat them. And then in the AFC Championship game, they'd probably play Baltimore. But if they weren't playing Baltimore, it would almost assuredly be because they're playing Houston, two other teams that beat them. So yes, it is a chance for a revenge tour. I do not think they're going to be able to complete that tour. I'm not quite as pessimistic as some that have them losing in the first round to Tennessee. But I would be shocked if they get past the second round in the Kansas City. But that is a very interesting quote for this reason. Kyle Van Noy's been with the Patriots